Greetings, family. It's your brother Speech. I wanted to talk a little bit about Candice Owens. As you well know, or you may know, she's been in the news numerous times, but this last time she was in the news for saying that white supremacy and white nationalism is not one of the top priorities for Black people. First of all, she is in no position to speak about what are the priorities for Black people. Second of all, as a Republican in this day and age, she is so out of lock and step with the general consensus of what Black people feel is important that she needed to even add a caveat to if she was even going to say something like that. And then third of all, she has shown that she is tone deaf to all of the issues that concern us when it comes to police brutality, police murders against Black people, the prison system, the justice system, and even the racist rhetoric and laws and anti-voting, keeping people from voting laws that the Republicans have done, all of the numerous offenses, really hardcore offenses that President Trump has already lobbed at people of color and especially Black people. All of the racist things that he has done, meaning Trump has done from before he was president all the way to him being president. She has never critiqued in any serious way any of this behavior. So that alone discounts her legitimacy, in my opinion, and it also discounts her ability to articulate what Black people are going through, even though she's Black, which happens a lot. I mean, as Chuck D said, every brother ain't a brother. Well, that can be implied to every sister ain't a sister. Just being Black doesn't mean you understand what the issues are that concern us. And Candace Owens is no exception. She really does not understand it. Also, when she talks about fatherhood and the lack of fathers in the home and families being together, that is definitely true. No one would doubt that. However, I think that Candace is extremely insincere and even an opportunist. So more than just insincere, because someone can be insincere on accident, not knowing it, just ignorant of the facts. Candace knows the facts, and she's manipulative, and she is an opportunist to write books and to make a lot of money doing the types of speaking engagements and sort of making the enemies of justice for Black people comfortable. So the enemies of justice for Black people can be anyone that is just ignorant people, whether white, Black, or any other race. It could be people who are purposely destructive towards Black people, those that literally have a white supremacist agenda. It could be those that in their inactivity with any of these justice issues are simply dangerous because they refuse to act. And not only act, they refuse to even acknowledge that there's a huge problem that is literally killing Black people in record numbers and destroying the legacies that have been painstakingly and with blood, sweat, and tears built over the centuries, destroying those legacies. These are no small things, and she is ignoring an entire party and all of the various powers that support that party. She is ignoring all of the offenses and only calling out Democrats. So mind you, I'm not a Democrat, although I do vote Democrat literally every time since I've been voting. So I will say that. No, that's not true. I voted for my man Paul, what's his name? Maybe Rand Paul? No, not Rand Paul, his father. Anyway, I did vote for him once, and he didn't make the primary, so I then voted for a Democrat. So I guess my point is that I don't care if she has an issue with Democrats. I have issues with Democrats. I have issues with some of the liberal agenda. But I will say I have way more issues with the conservative agenda and its false narrative that it paints constantly. And I do think that the left or liberal agenda is a lot more honest and fair as they analyze the different issues, especially when it comes to Black people, people of color, immigrants, when it comes to justice system with prisons. Now, whether their actions follow their propaganda, that's a whole nother story. And I think a lot of that has to do with just politicians, period. So anyway, Candace Owens, though, Owens to me is very dangerous to our psyche, because the more and more she's normalized as somebody that actually has legitimate views on these issues, I think it becomes dangerous to lose sight of what the legitimate issues are. And I saw some of the revolt piece. I personally would not have her on for that very reason, but I understand why TV shows like to have diverse thoughts. I personally would love to see conservatives that do actually care about these issues and really have shown in their rhetoric and their talks that they care about what the majority of Black people are trying to make clear to the establishment and to the powers that be, that they care deeply about those things, and they're not just there to dismantle and to disrupt any unity or any opportunities to get a Democrat into the highest office again. That's what I feel her agenda is, and it always has been, just simply to get people from what she calls the plantation, which I think is extremely false, but I also think it is demeaning to the intelligence and to the sincere objectives that most Black people have when they vote Democrat. There is a reason. We're not dumb, and we voted Republican when their agendas were in line with our movements and the things we were striving to accomplish. And now we vote Democrat for that exact same reason. So I think she's just manipulative and so on and so forth. In the scriptures, there is examples on how Satan works. So the Bible says clearly about Satan that he not only lies, but that it's his native tongue. He's the father of lies. And there is no truth in him, the scriptures say about Satan. And I find that interesting because every time you see an example of Satan's interaction with either God or with man, he actually does have truth wrapped up within lies. And yet God looked at that as a perfect example of there is no truth in him. So what I found interesting about that is he disguises little bits of the truth as sort of like a candy so that you can draw people in. But the overall point and the intent is a lie and is manipulative. And that's what I think Candice Owens does very well. She will put out there little bits and pieces that we all can agree with. Do we need to have full families? Yes. Do we need to have spirituality and godliness, whether Christianity or what have you, but some type of form of spiritual and higher call in our community and in our homes? Without a question, I believe that. I think that that is very necessary. So she adds those little tidbits. She does talk about Black on Black crime, which if you've ever seen Nigga Factory, you know I talk about not only the Black on Black shootings and crime, but even the Black on Black images that we portray about each other and the TV shows that we're putting out there and so on and so forth. So I agree with all those things, but she doesn't wrap it with any sincerity and truth. What she does is she uses that as candy to distract and pull us away from the issues that are really at hand. And I would be more impressed with Candice Owens if she was as passionate and as righteously indignant about the hypocrisy and the ill will that her party, the Republicans, and her leaders within that party, like Trump and so on and so forth, were doing. Because then that would feel godly to me. See, Jesus was one that would call out the poor. He would call out the rich. He would call out those in huge positions of power and also those who had no power. So Jesus said that he doesn't allow any man to make him water down his message. He was willing to call out any man. It didn't matter what party or what country or what nationality or whatever they were from. His concern was the soul of man. Well, if that's the case, then her same righteous indignation should be equally against a Donald Trump as it might be against what she perceives as an agenda or a crooked agenda from the left to try to get people to vote and so on and so forth. So Candice Owens to me is dangerous. I don't see any value in lifting her up. She reminds me of Tommy Laren, or I forget her name, but it was a white woman that was doing similar things. It was just toxic, and it didn't have legitimacy of righteous indignation on all sides and just really going at trying to find truth. To me, she just simply is there to confuse. And that's exactly what Satan wants to do. Satan wants to confuse the issue and get you off of the smell or the scent of truth. And he wants you to simply be wandering around, sort of debating about issues and topics that really are irrelevant to the truth of what Jesus and God are striving to teach us as their creation. So anyway, that's my thoughts about that sister. If she changes, I would be excited. But to me, she is literally of no value to a proper and real conversation about race, about injustice, and about striving to take this country and this world to another place when it comes to those issues. So anyway, I love y'all. Peace and strength. See ya.